Welcome back. We are so sorry for that little glitch, but we're here and we're ready to go. So let me go again. Welcome to Kadisha Blake-Huggins podcast, where we give you the tools to navigate millennial relationships, money, and goal setting. Today I have two wonderful people here with me. I have Nicole and Darrian, and they're definitely coming here today to drop some gems. And I hope you are listening. I hope you are ready for the knowledge that they're about to give you. But before I start, let me go ahead and give you the introduction for these wonderful people. Nicole Reed is a corporate trainer. She is an aspiring author, motivational speaker, and the mother to a very energetic 6-year-old. She loves dancing, journaling, and meditation. And one of her favorite quotes is, "You only live once, so be hot anyway." And of course, as you can see, Nicole is very hot. So I see why she loves that quote. Um, the next speaker that we have today is Darrian. And of course, last but definitely not least, he holds his he holds the guiding principle, doing all things with a gracious spirit, and also that one should delay self gratification and expedite self actualization. He holds a Bachelor of Arts in Literatures in English and minors in Film Studies and Psychology. Very interesting. And presently completing certificates as a certified fitness, not certificates, I'm so sorry, Darian, certification as a certified fitness trainer and life coach. So if you want to get your body right and also your mind right, you know where to go. Awesome. Darian, I'm just so impressed. He's a teacher by profession and has taught at several high schools locally and internationally, and has also tutored at several universities in Jamaica. Darren is also a marketer for several online businesses, Key Beauty Naturals, Jamgoro, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, and Word Edge Services. All can be found on Instagram and Facebook. A poet and author, he has written several poems and will release an anthology in the future. So looking forward to that. However, he is presently in the process of writing his very first book. And this book is giving us some tips on relationship from the male perspective. So women, especially women, we need to look out for that book, right? He is an actor at heart, and I'm sure in reality as well. He has done several voiceover and TV ads and also models for Premier Gentlemen. And if you look at my guest, you can know he's a very handsome young man. So of course he's a model. Why not? Why not? So he models for Premier Gentlemen, a fashion house which can be found on IG. His dream is to transform lives positively, one person at a time. Darian, I am so happy that you're here. Nicole, I'm so happy that you're here. And I'm just going to ask you, since we're having this little issue with echoing and all of that. So whenever I address you and you want to chime in on something, feel free to come in and talk about what I'm asking you. All right. So our topic for today, everyone, is millennial relationships. Navigating your way through millennial relationships. What are some expectations that we have, or some expectations that we should have, and what are the realities? What are the realities of our dating, especially in the COVID pandemic? What are the realities? So, just Nicole, Darian, do you have anything that you wish to say? I'll definitely want you to say that. Yeah. So Darian, if you could unmute and just give a brief introduction of yourself. I have given an introduction of you already, but just what do you want people to know about you?
Okay, well, I think you pretty much covered everything already. So there is not much. You mentioned more importantly, part of the reason I'm here is because, you'd have mentioned to me a particular aspect of relationships based on what you'd have seen me commenting on and stuff like that. And I've also been in the process of writing a book which deals with relationships from the male's perspective. Apart from that, you have pretty much covered everything that there is to know. Regarding the question that you asked, though, I think just to jump into that, I think we have realized that relationships are or can be very demanding. And so I think, especially during COVID, one of the things that people with whom I've spoken have shared with me is that, especially since they've been home, there is no longer the space, or, being able to have different spaces for different things. So, for example, you're working outside of home. Normally, when you're at work, you know that you pick up your children at a particular time. If you have kids, you know that your husband or partner, whoever is coming home at a particular time. And so there is space, being at home during during the pandemic, there is that space disappears somewhat, and so you have to navigate that time frame. When do you spend time with your partner? When do you spend time with your children? And so it's becoming more of a situation where you have to do so consciously. So I'll start by saying that.
All right, thank you, Darrian. Nicole, what would you like to add to that? Expectations. What are some of the expectations that you think we as women have when we're going into relationships?
All right, can you guys hear me? Am I still on mute? Okay. All right, hi everybody. So I think that you did an excellent job at sharing my very short bio. However, in terms of what I'd like to share, when it comes down to expectations, the first thing for me is you have to know who you are, know what you want, what you like, what you don't like, what you bring to the table, and most importantly, how to love yourself. And I think that as we in the conversation, you'll be able to dive into things that a lot of persons struggle with, or our society has done an excellent job at brainwashing us, especially women, especially if you grew up in the church, to allow you to become fantasized with this image of, oh, there's this wonderful Prince Charming somewhere that's going to rescue you from your problems, rescue you from this and that. And that once you have that, then you're going to be happy. We weren't taught how to achieve happiness without the presence of that soulmate or that person in our life. And I'm from my experiences, and I had to learn the hard way that the first thing that we have to do is to love ourselves. And we have to come out of that box of, oh, I expect you to give me this and to do this for me. And then if you do that, then I'll give you this. So the first thing is that we need to work on ourselves, both male and female.
Thank
All
you,
right,
Nicole.
that's
I'm
my
not
two
sure
cents.
if you are hearing. There's a bit of a glitch there. If everyone is hearing that. But guys, let us make the best of the situation.
Everyone, let's make the best.
Okay, guys, I'm not sure what's happening. I'm not sure. This is not. But can you thumbs up if you're in any form of glitching while I'm speaking? Is there any form of glitching? Okay. All right. So thank you, Darrian. Thank you, Nicole. Guys, if you're viewing this currently, hi Melaine, hi Kiona. If you're viewing this currently, just bear with us. Technology at times have its glitches, but we're working on it and we're trying to get you gems. All right. So Nicole mentioned about learning to love you first. Especially as young women in the Caribbean. I can speak for the Caribbean because that is where we grew up. We are told that, oh, this gentleman is going to come. I'm going to go to college, meet your husband. And that is the reality for some, but it's not the reality for all of us. And we go with this fantasy in mind of our ideal partner and being saved by man and being and I really appreciate that Nicole said that you have to love yourself first. You have to be complete first, and then your partner will add to your completeness, right? But just to go in going a bit more, Darrian, I would love to hear from you. Is it okay for women to have a list of things that they want from their ideal partner? Is it okay for me to say, okay, I want this and I want that? Is that okay?
So I think it's fine to have somewhat of a guide as to what you're looking for, because at the end of the day, we all have standards. Especially as females, we need to have some sort of standard. Otherwise, we'll just be looking for a needle in a haystack to some extent, right? So I think the list provides you with some sort of guidance as to things that you can live with, or things that you decide, I can work with this or I can't work with this. These are just definites that I can't work with. However, I don't think that the list should restrict you so much that if you do find someone who you think share, for example, your similar values and what you're looking for in a partner to a large extent, I don't think because you can't check every single box on that list, then it should kind of restrict you from finding that lifelong partner. Because my thing is that at the base of a relationship should be shared values. Once you have shared values, and I think you are in the right direction in terms of working on a relationship that can be fruitful or that can be lasting. So I think that's the basis. So in terms of the short answer to your question is yes, a list is fine. However, it should not be so restrictive that if you, for example, and I'm just throwing this out there, many, let me not qualify that by saying many, but you have some women who, if they can't find someone who is over 6 feet, that's a deal breaker for some, And I've spoken with women who were like that in the past, and now when you listen, they are actually, it's quite amazing. They're okay with any height, because they realize that, guess what? When you put such specifications, you are limiting yourself in a pool of perspectives. Because the truth of the matter is that while and it's preference, really, it's preference, and you can't really bash anybody for their preference. It's preference. But when you look in the pool and you look at the stats, the average height is, let us say, 5'9", 5'10". So when you're looking for over 6, and if you're sticking to a particular culture that limits you to this particular culture, that limits you to a specified number of men, then when you find that particular man, does he share similar values? What about future? So you limit yourself really to a large extent. And so that's my 2 cents on that. I think it was more than 2 cents though.
So before I go to Nicole, I'm just on what you're saying. You're saying it is okay for women to have a list of the qualities that they desire in their ideal partner, right? And you're also saying that, well, you meet someone that doesn't boxes, but the person may just be your person. And it reminded me of something that I said to a friend of mine. I said, your husband in your friend zone. We have this tendency as women to friend zone the guys, or friend zone the guys that are always there for us. The one that will come over with the superiority, that will do all the things that a good man would do. We tend to friend guys and say, he's in the friend zone, he's my good friend. And you even try to say on your girlfriend, that might very well be your husband in the friend zone. So as I said, he may not tick all the boxes. For instance, with me, and I think Nicole knows some part of my story. My husband is, I always say, I had my list, but God surpassed my expectations with my husband. Like, I was trying to tick boxes, but God added boxes I never even knew I needed. So sometimes, yes, you have the list, as Darrian says, but guess what? The person that you're looking for have realistic expectations. The person that you're looking for may just be waiting, may just be right by your side. Darren, before I go to Nicole, I just want to ask you a question. If I bring nothing to the table, all right, so I don't have anything bringing to the table, do I deserve a seat at the table?
Well, if you bring nothing to the table, then it begs the question: what are you looking for? Because can you realistically have expectations when you aren't meeting the other person's expectations? Because if we're talking about millennial relationships, and considering there has been a paradigm shift in terms of even the labor force, because now you have women in the labor force, before you didn't, to a large extent. And so there has been a shift in how relationships, roles, all of that responsibilities, and so we have to be mindful of that when we're talking about a table, because if we're going to expect to eat at the table, then what is my contribution to that? So even if right, when I go to the table, I realize that the table might need another leg, or the leg might need fixed, can I do something in terms of a contribution to that table? And instead of only expecting one person to be bearing all that responsibility. And that's if we're talking about modern relationships, and if we're talking about dating with a view to marriage and having long lasting relationships, then I think that it is realistic to expect the other person to expect you as their partner to be contributing to some extent.
Sounds wonderful. Sounds wonderful. Darren, thank you for sharing. Nicole, my question to you, and it's the same question I asked Darian earlier. Is it okay for women to have a list? Is it okay for us to say these to you need to be off? Is that okay? That's okay.
Okay. Is it okay? I honestly believe that it depends on your value system. So, in my personal story as well, at different stages of my life, I wanted different things. When we were all at U at Preston Hall, for example, at that time, for some reason I thought, hey, he had to be a doctor because I was into doctors at that time. He had to be of a certain background. He had to like these things. And as I matured and I had more experiences, I realized that, hey, I do want a doctor though. Will you make time for me? Do I really need to be obsessed with the idea of I have to be married, or okay, he has to have this? What am I bringing to the table as a woman? And as I grew older and I learned different things, I got better at, I guess, narrowing, to first assess myself to know what I offer. So similarly to my first answer, it starts with self-love. You have to know what you bring to the table. I think it's unrealistic to expect that. For example, let's say that my celebrity crush is Idris Elba, which it is, even though he's taken at the moment. But it would be unrealistic for me to expect that, hey, Idris is gonna say, oh my God, that Kenyan queen, I marry her now, and I have nothing else to bring to the table. The truth is that, of course, all women have that lovely organ, but what makes you different? Why should a man choose you? Same thing for the man, or vice versa. All males, or most males, should have that lovely organ. What is going to make you different? It starts with your personality, etc. So nothing is wrong with having a list. It's just a matter of your level of maturity. At this stage of my life, I'm 30 plus, even though I don't look it. Um, for me, my happiness comes first. So once I've done the work on myself to say, okay, there's some really deep stuff that I'd like to share, which I'll expect us to speak about later on. But there are certain things that I think that as adults we need to overcome before we even think about relationship. Like something that Caribbean people don't talk about a lot is their childhood traumas and how that impacts you as an adult and how it affects your relationships. So little insecurities that I may have as a girl. Oh, I'm not beautiful. I'm not good enough. Can you imagine, as lovely as I look now, I struggled with self-esteem issues for years. I seriously didn't think that I was good enough. And I had to go through my own process of parenting myself, or I think that the right word is inner child work, to basically back, reparent my inner child that wanted to be thought validated in certain type of men good for me. So first thing is you have to work on yourself. You have to know who you are, what you want. At that time, then you can say, okay, Idris Elba, all right, you and I are on the same level. Of course. Are you worthy of me and not the other way around? All right. So after you've passed that level, I think that the other question, apart from being unrealistic, I forgot the other question. Sorry. What's the second question? Ask Darrian.
Thank you so much. You answered that question so well, and I do agree with you as it pertains um, healing from those childhood traumas. Sometimes you have women that say, every time I meet a man, it's the same type of man. It's respectful toward me, doesn't appreciate me. And we wonder why we keep having the same type of people. It's because we have not healed from past traumas in our life. And I really appreciate you saying that, Nicole, because so many of us women, we use our past, not that it's not very important, and not that you have not been through a lot. We use it as a crutch. We use it to validate ourselves with ourselves. Oh, nothing better is out there, and this is the best that I can do for me. And you use it to involve yourselves with people that really don't have any business at all being in your life. So I appreciate that. So my second question to you is, if I bring nothing to the table, do I deserve a seat at the table? So I'm talking about those women that say, I want a rich man, but you're not rich. Oh, I want a man that is fit, but you're not going to the gym. All of that. Do I deserve a seat at the table if I bring nothing? Should I just bring me to the table and there's no there's nothing at all?
Okay, so as you talked about the whole rich man part, I remember this clip that Cher, the singer Cher, said, her mom said, "Cher, when you grow up, you should marry a rich man." And she's like, "Mom, I am a rich man," right? So you should become or work on becoming what you want to attract to yourself. For me, honestly, in every aspect of my life, it's with me. If I don't bring anything to the table at the same time, anything is relative, because anything to another person is totally fine. Or my version of, oh, I have nothing to offer to him. My nothing could mean that I don't have money, or I'm not as educated, but I have a long heart. But in his eyes, he thinks that that's him. So the saying, beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. What I believe though is that every human, whether male or female, should work on being the best version of yourself. So in every single way, whether it's education wise, financially, etc., so that when that time comes, and it's not even about having a partner. I actually reached to the place in my life in which I'm no longer obsessed over marriage or having certain things. I'm just at a place I'm with who I choose to be. When that time comes, I have an equally worthy person who, based on what I want for my life or what my priorities are, he deserves in my company. Turn the question, I believe that anything I bring to this relative, it has to be based on what that person values. So using Idris for example, if Idris is ever worthy to be in my, which won't happen because I'm taken, but let's just say some magic happens. It would be based on what he considers something to be and what I consider something to be. For me though, personally, um, I see myself as a wealthy person, wealthy in the concept that I would say that I'm broke even if I don't got no, don't say those things. But for me, a rich man couldn't seem to me because he's rich. I look for other things apart from that. So it's just based on the person's value system.
Nicole. Darrian, you must be saying these ladies have been talking all the time. It's finally time for me to talk to Darrian again. Darrian, it's so funny that Nicole brought up marriage, right? Is that something that men are still looking for? Is it something that millennials look forward to? Is it a thing? Marriage still a thing? And before do you want to get married? I'm getting a little bit personal. Want to get be honest with this. Do you want to get married? And who is your ideal partner?
You want to get married, and who is your ideal partner?
I'm hearing a bit of echo. Nicole, can you mute, please? I think there's a bit. Thank you so much.
I'm hearing a bit of echo. Nicole, can you mute, please? There's a bit. Thank you so much. Okay.
I didn't hear the last part of what you were asking. Could you just repeat the last part of what you're asking, please?
Okay, so sorry. So I have 3 questions, and I'm so sorry to be rushing with all these questions. But my questions are: is marriage still a thing for millennials? Is it a thing at all? Second, do you want to get married, and who is your ideal partner? If you could say your ideal partner to me, what would she look like? What would her qualities be? Please let us know.
For sure. Okay. So I do think that there are millennials who want to get married for several reasons. For some, they were grown in a traditional household where they have seen their parents married, and so for some it is still an idea that it's beneficial if you can have a partner with whom you can share your life and you can share whatever it is. To some extent, and I say this carefully, it makes life easier. And I'll rephrase that: it should make life easier. Yes. For others, it is for the same economic reason that they might want to have a partner, because they can share finances, they can share things. It really helps to in terms of progress, if you want to gain assets and stuff like this, especially within our culture, where I'll use one example, which many might not want to really hear, but if we should take, for example, the National Housing Trust, oftentimes, if you should want to get a place for yourself, it is almost as if you have to partner with someone. And so it makes better economic sense if there is someone with whom you want to be or have as a lifelong partner, that you could share this responsibility, And so for economic reasons, you have people who still want to get married. I will say, though, that I find when I speak to more millennials, the concept of marriage seems to not be one that is, really held as in the past. So they still talk about it, but it's not regarded as something of a priority. If it happens, it happens. For some. Regarding if I want to get married, for sure, I do want to get married. How would my ideal partner look? The first thing is that we must have shared values. So that's a no-brainer. If we don't have the same values, it's going to be a real challenge. So if we're not on the same wavelength, if we're not on the same page in terms of values, then there's always going to be a push and pull kind of situation. And this kind of situation does happen naturally in regular relationships, so especially if you want to have someone who you want to share certain goals with, or to have as a lifelong partner, it is very important that this person has similar values to you. It really relieves some of the stress of having to fight through certain disagreements. Disagreements will naturally happen in a relationship, with whatever relationship it is, platonic, whatever relationship, intimate relationship, you will have disagreements. But when you have similar values for intimate, lifelong partner, some of the stress is reduced. For my ideal partner, I'd want someone who is honest, of course, someone I can rely on, someone I can communicate with. In terms of what, one of the things I find when I listen to people sharing their relationship challenges is that you find people don't have a concept of what communication is in a relationship. So someone will say, but I said this, or I'm expecting my partner to know this, you know? So some people expect their partner to know this. It's almost as if we have some sort of telepathic, relationship. And oftentimes that creates a problem because what you think your partner is supposed to know, sometimes they really miss it because at the end of the day, your partner is still a human being and they still have obligations that they're trying to meet for work, for the relationship, for it within their personal life. There are so many things that that they have on their minds that sometimes as a partner, you can make life easier by just communicating clearly. This is what I would love. If you realize that they're missing it, you could say it because the truth is sometimes we all miss stuff. That's just a reality, and so it helps if we can just communicate in a loving manner, even if it's something that we might have been irritated by because they were supposed to know. It's way easier if you can just say it. It helps a lot instead of having an unnecessary argument or disagreement over something that could have been just easily said. And so I would love if that person knows how to communicate. As a matter of fact, I was talking to a friend recently, and I was saying that I would love if one of the things we try to do, for even if there are people who don't want to get involved in relationships, if we could have communication for relationships as, if not a course, but just something to go through with adults. Communication for relationship, because oftentimes people don't realize that words matter, and words matter a lot. So what you say to your partner is very important. And I think Nicole touched on it, but in terms of the self, how you speak to yourself matter. And how you speak to yourself, it will, later on you find that how you speak to your partner, because you don't speak to yourself in loving tones or in a loving manner, you find that the same way you speak to yourself, you start relaying that kind of person to your partner. And it creates a whole lot of unnecessary conflict when we don't think about how we communicate. And so on my list of things is communication. It's a big thing. We must learn how to communicate, and not just surface communication. For me, that this is just for me, my perspective. I love conversations where we can talk about a range of topics, not just about the same topics every single time. So we must be able to be diverse, and a part of what I'd love along these lines is if my partner prides herself in reading, because reading helps. One of the things, and I'll stop after I say this. Sorry, one of the things I realize is that whenever you buy any piece of appliance or anything at all, you get a manual. Yeah? Now, oftentimes, if you tend not to follow the manual, you find that you might run into problems if it's not something that's easily fitted. You might run into problems, yes? When you go on a job, they provide you with what is called orientation so that you can learn the ropes of the job. Now, my thing is, if you decide that you want to enter a relationship, I think it's necessary that you equip yourself with a mindset for a relationship, which might mean finding people who you can speak with about how a healthy relationship should be, what it should look like, what are some of the tenets of a healthy relationship, or even if it means reading material and then trying to piece together for yourself what a healthy relationship should look like, whether it's a friendship or an intimate relationship. So I go back to the analogy. Your appliance needs a manual to work proper for you in order for you to be able to fit it properly in a short space of time. And I think in a similar manner, a relationship requires you to have knowledge of what it should look like, how it should work, if it's working properly, and stuff like that.
Darrian, I think you gave us not think. I know you gave us some really great gems there. And ladies, from the male's perspective. And it is so refreshing, I must add. It's so refreshing, a young man that speaks about relationships in that way. Such a healthy and wholesome way. Oh, you have one girl around the corner, next one around there. It's so refreshing. And I'm not saying that all men think like that or speak like that, but we know that many do. It's so very refreshing, a young man that speaks differently. So my question is for you. Do you want to get married? And who would you say is your ideal partner? What are some of the qualities that you look for in your ideal partner?
All right, so drum roll. All right, guys. So all my life I've always wanted to get married. For some reason, few years I no longer have that obsession with it. However, I would like to be married because I know that I'm a wife material type of lady. Um, Not just because, oh, I'm a good woman, but I know, put my head on the block, what I bring to the table. And because of that, I see myself as a treasure, and I would love the awesome experience of only having one partner who I can build an empire with. I am looking for someone who is, first of all, my best friend, and someone who has my back and is in it for the long run. In terms of who my ideal partner take, he has to be chiseled. My ideal partner, first of all, I'm considering his personality. So, Ked, you know me, I'm a very, very, very sensitive soul. I'm a very loving, caring person. I'd love to have a partner who's equally the way that I love, which my friends, if they're on. But if you know who I am as a person, how loving and caring I am, it would be so amazing for me to have a partner that matches dedication and love. I would want my partner, of course, to be loyal as I am, faithful, reliable. I think that unfortunately a lot of men in the Caribbean or in Jamaica tend to be unreliable. For some of them, the experience is coming from their absenteeism with their dad, so they don't know how to be themselves, much less for a woman, sometimes their own children. I'd love to have a partner who is intellectual, who we're able to have very deep conversations with. I'm a very deep person. Love to talk different things about life, meaning and that. So I to be able to have that connection with my partner. I'm looking for someone who is a visionary in terms of his. We're going to ensure that our kids and our children's children are set for life. So we're thinking ahead. We're putting businesses and things in place so that we have multiple sources of income, and that we don't, or we or the children won't have to work like we worked. I'm looking for someone who, for me, is great at romancing. That is important to me. Just being honest, right? So you have to know what you want. But I am a very adventurous person, and I'm looking for someone who's as equally adventurous and someone who complements my idiosyncrasies in terms of the little things that perhaps I'm scared of, that can back there. Um, yep, that is my. I'm not sure if I did more. Darren and had shared something, but I forgot. Um, when it comes down to marriage, guys, I think that we have this fairy tale mindset, especially the persons who grew up in the church, in terms of, oh, once you're married, that's it. I think that more emphasis needs to be placed on working on yourself. And I know that I've said that a lot so far, but it is so important because those little daddy issues comes up in your relationship. as Darrian had mentioned, in terms of communication, that is so important because a lot of us don't know how to communicate well. I consider myself as a communicator in that I'm the type of partner. And if my partner is watching, babe, I love you. But he knows that when it comes on to something being off, I want to talk about it. I want to fix it as soon as possible. Many of us tend to brush things under the carpet and we wait until things, get really, really bad and then everybody explodes. We need to learn how to communicate properly, people. And that is sometimes something that takes time, takes patience, and takes a level of love and respect because I think that not a lot of Jamaican men, especially Darren, you're kind of different, but a lot of Jamaican men don't know how to communicate properly. They're not socialized to express their feelings. They're not socialized to say, hey, this is bothering me, and how to communicate it in a loving way without come off as him being off or him being too. So those little things important, your values. I think it's important as well to share your values. Like, okay, babe, all right, I am not the Miss Wash Cook Cleaning. This is who I am. So let's strike a balance from the start. Secondly, we need to discuss things like, do we want to have children? We need to discuss things like our finances. We need to discuss things like our spiritual or religious beliefs and, compatibility. So it's a lot of deep things. But yes, I'd like to get married and I know that I will one day. Knock on wood.
Awesome, Nicole. Thank you so much for sharing. And now, guys, we're coming down nicely. We're almost at the end where I'm going to for my last question, I'll be asking Darrian and Nicole to give you some tips on how to navigate millennial relationships. But we're not there yet. And as soon as they've given their tips, I'm going to you can go ahead and post your comments even before they have the tips. Post your questions, and I'm sure you'll be willing to answer at the end. But before we get to the last question, I just need to have a little rant. Yes, life coaching me. Nicole is a motivational speaker, a life coach. I'm also a life coach. Darrian focuses on a variety of things. He focuses on relationships and mindset. I focus on so much of what Nicole has said about self first, right? So even though you're having an issue with your partner, if you come to me as a coach, I'm not going to be talking about what your partner did wrong and why your partner is this way. I'm going to focus on you. What is it that you are projecting? What is it that you're projecting to your partner? What is it about you? Are you the type of person that you're very clingy because you always feel that you don't fit? Or is it a case that you have some assumptions that you have made agreements on? Assumptions you have made about people and their actions? Is there something that you need to change about you to get a better response from your partner? So you'll never come to me as a coach and I tell you that let us try and fix your partner. We are going to fix you. And if maybe by fixing you, you realize your partner is not for you at all. And maybe by fixing you, you think, this is something I can change to improve my relationship with my partner. But let me just have a bit of a rant before we go on to the final question. And thank you so much for tuning in and for staying here with us. We do realize we have some technical glitches, but you are here nonetheless, and we're so appreciative of that. So I need to give you a little backstory about me. I met my husband. Nicole know because Nicole and I not grew up, sorry. We were on the same dorm at UE and I did meet a partner there. Not a partner. I did meet I had a boyfriend. I think maybe Darrian knew him as well. And the idea, I left high school thinking I would go to UE, I'm going to meet this Prince Charming, he's going to save me, we're going to get married, everything is going to be so amazing. And oh, this wonderful guy. Well, I thought he was wonderful. I think he's a wonderful guy. It was just not wonderful for me. And I met him and everyone kept telling me, oh my gosh, this is a wonderful person. He's going to be so amazing. And I entered into a relationship and I was blinded by the fairy tale. Even when I saw the red flags, I could not see the red flags. You know what I mean? And I started, after we ended that relationship, I started thinking about dating myself. I said, I just got the idea one day I should totally date myself. I started going out to the movies on my own, even though I had friends. Went out to the movies on my own. I took myself lunch, took myself to dinner, all of that. And I got to know Kedisha a bit more. I started using that energy that I was using on my relationship on myself. Started to get to know me, what I liked. I realized that I was changing, I was evolving, and what I wanted, what I needed at that time was not what I was getting. So from there, a couple months later, I met my partner. And I'm going to tell you, ladies, this. Sometimes when you meet a man, yes, the man is wonderful. Yes, everything is good. But I don't recommend, I'm not in, but I don't recommend that you jump into them the first time you meet the man. The first month or 2 months or 3 months, sex should be the last thing on the table. As Darrian said, you have heard it from a man. Darrian said he wants to be with someone who reads, someone that would challenges him to speak certain things, challenges him to think outside of the box, basically. I hope I'm not getting incorrect, right? But challenges him. So, ladies, you must bring something other than sex to the table. As Nicole said, all women have that thing, and you may think that yours is the best, but it's not so much different. There's not a drastic difference between what you have and what other women have. So what do you bring to the table? You can't just be saying, oh yes man, I'm going to do something wonderful tonight. Other women are going to be doing wonderful things. If I'm right, guys, give me a thumbs up if you think what I'm saying is right. It cannot be just sex. Should be the last thing on the table. Your partner should not treat you as an accessory. You are an entire different being. So you're not an accessory, you're a partner. So your partner saying, babe, when we do this, when we get to that, in 5 years' time, we are going to do that. We. Or is he saying, I can see myself here and I can see myself here, but you're not in that picture. Are you in the picture with your partner? Or is that it's a you over there and I'm over here? That is one thing you need to consider. The next thing, I know a lot of Jamaicans are going to say, what is this pretty woman talking about? But cheating. When you're told that there are two things that are sure in life, cheating and death. I don't believe that. Set very high expectations for your partners, ladies. Don't say, I know I'm the wife. He has Mary, Sue, Joan, maybe even Peter. Nowadays, you never know. He has all these people there, but I am the wife. That, to me, that is not good enough. And it's all Nicole said about getting to know yourself, dating yourself, loving on yourself, buying yourself gifts for Valentine's Day if you don't have a partner, taking yourself to the movies even though your partner is not available to take you, going for lunch, going to the spa, hanging out with your girlfriends. What about you? Treat you, honey you. Because if you know how to love you, you teach someone how to properly love you. So don't accept a cheating man. Don't accept a cheating man. Have high expectations. That expectation you should be setting, and that expectation should definitely align with your reality. And yes, my rant has ended. So sex should be the last thing on the table. Your partner should treat you as a partner and not an accessory, not a handbag or a trophy, but a partner. And the third thing is that cheating is a no. And if you accept it, and if it happens and there's no there are no consequences for cheating, your partner is going to say it is okay. She's not going to do anything, or she's going to go to her mom and she's going to come back the next day. And also, abuse is a no. Definitely not. If the person does anything in terms of emotional or physical abuse, it's okay for you to call that quits. Don't allow any form of shame from society to say, oh wow, weren't they just together? Oh wow, she had a good man and she lost it. It's okay. You have yourself and you are Woman, honor yourself. You're good enough. So at the end of the rant, breathe. All right. So the last question, and I'm seeing some questions here from people in the chat, and I'm going to be having those questions short so Darrian and Nicole can answer those. But let's go to the final question. Darrian and Nicole, for those women or those men that are saying, I always get an abusive partner, I never find the right person, or I can never find the person that my friend has. You know, I know from a lot of my friends, you know, they say, okay, how do I find a good man? Or some of my male friends, how do I find a good woman? What are some of the expectations that we need to be setting? What are some of the tips, the top tips that you have for people who are searching for the ideal partner? Let's go with Nicole first and then Darrian. And of course, guys, remember to post your questions. We're about to wrap up. So remember to post your questions and I'll definitely have Darrian or Nicole answer for you. So please indicate who you want to answer and we'll do that. So Nicole.
Am I still on mute? Can you hear me? Okay, there we go. There's a little bit of a delay. All right, in answering the question, I think that most of us have been there before in terms of attracting partners that are certainly not best for us. Have you ever looked back and it's like, oh my God, what the heck was I thinking? I think that we've all had that type of experience. In my case, it started with me doing what you did, which was kind of dating yourself, taking time off to know you, and you realize that there's a pattern. My analysis as a former chemist, my observation and literally analyzing myself, I was able to trace back this pattern from my own daddy issues that I was unaware of. So I attracted people who were emotionally unavailable. I was like this very super sweet girl. And then persons who were like, oh, like how on earth did you end up with somebody like that? But whenever that happens, the first thing is to forgive yourself. Lisa Nichols, which is a motivational speaker who I love dearly, she has this exercise. You can check her out on YouTube. First, you need to look yourself in the mirror and say, for example, Nicole, I forgive you. I forgive you for accepting less than you deserve. I forgive you for settling when you knew in your heart that you deserve better. Secondly, I am proud of you. I am proud of you that you're going through this right now, that you're doing this exercise because you want to be better. And thirdly, I like to be better day by day. I had to go through my own journey of reparenting myself, which meant that I had to sit down and face what you call like your shadow side, which is that side of you that does all those beautiful, ugly stuff, and come to terms that I did the best that I could do with who I was at that time. I'm no longer that person because I know that I know now that I'm more powerful now because I have more experience and I have more knowledge. So what I'm encouraging you to do is to first start with yourself. Understand that everybody has been there. Know that you know that this is where you are. Find out what deep down is causing you to attract people like those. And from there, go through the journey of finding you. Find yourself nobody. Again, people will hurt you, but it doesn't as it as much anymore because you know who you are and you know that hey, I deserve the best. Hope I answered the question.
Yes, you did, Nicole. I see Kiona giving you some in chat. Boy, you're dropping some
Anna.
gems. The biggest one for me, biggest one for me is and sometimes we don't forgive ourselves. Like for example, I had this resentment for so long pertains to my ex. I had this resentment towards him. Like I could not even stand to see the man. Every time I saw him, I just got physically upset. But no, I am so grateful for him. I'm so grateful for the lessons that he has taught me. I am so grateful that because of him being the wrong person, I knew what to look for in my husband. So I like, if I see him, I would give him a hug. Please don't be afraid of letting go. You're not going to die. You move on and move on to something even better. But let me not rant anymore, because it's time to shine, Darrian. Time to shine. So let us know, Darrian, what are the tips that you have for women, especially if they're searching for their ideal partner? What are those nice, not nice, but you can give them to navigate their way through a millennial relationship, and not just a millennial relationship, but one of value?
All right, so I love your rant, by the way, and thank you, Nicole. So I'm going to piggyback off Nicole. It's critical, really important that you look into when you find that you're having issues or challenges in your relationship. Nothing is wrong with sitting with yourself and trying to figure out if there might be anything from the past which could be impacting your present. And oftentimes you find that there are some little things that actually play a big part in how you are now in your relationships, you know. And I also think that while you're doing that for your present and moving into your future self, you want to align yourselves with people who have what you're trying to build for yourself. So you can't say you're trying to build a healthy relationship and you're aligning yourself with people who are not trying to build a healthy relationship. And by no means am I saying that you shouldn't have a diverse group of acquaintances, associates, or what, but you need to know what category to you need to know, and blatantly straightforward. You need to know where to place people. Because if you have people within your circle, yes, and we know what our circle should look like. If you have people within your circle who don't share similar values, right, then you are going to be influenced by these people. When you find challenge in a relationship, who do you go to for advice? If you're going to these people who don't value relationships like you do, then you might be setting up yourself for and your relationship for failure. So you need to align yourselves with people who share similar values or share, what you're looking for in relationships. So that's one thing. Along with what Nicole mentioned earlier about looking into yourself as well. Speaking to yourself is also powerful. Telling yourself that, what I did in the past is no longer me, and meaning it, right? Because that's also important. And if you're making a change, then you have to make the conscious move towards a change. It's not just about wanting it, but it's about doing it, making the steps. You understand? So it can no longer just be talk. It has to be more than talk. You have to move towards it. There's something else that I wanted to say, but it totally slipped me. Regarding what I have to say to, yes, I remember. So what do I have to say to women who are looking for relationships, dating, or during in this time for millennial relationships and for otherwise? Be honest. Be brutally honest. Be very honest about what you want. Because if you're not honest about what you want, people will think that you will accept just about anything. Don't pretend that something is fine when you know it is not. Because once you begin to show that you're comfortable with something, that sets the precedence for how someone will treat you. When you start to change your mind about how you want to be treated, that person would have already been set in their ways of treating you in a particular way. And so you find there is this pushback when you start to say, listen, this is not how I want to be treated. There is a retaliation, so to speak, because you were fine. You were accepting this all along. So what's the change about now? So you have to be brutally honest, not because you see a guy, and I'm also speaking for men, not because you see a lady, or for women, because you see a guy who looks good, seems to bring everything to the table, financially stable. What about the other alleys? What about the other alleys? They're also important. Is this person emotionally stable? Can you rely on this person to talk with you about issues or challenges that you might be experiencing in a relationship? So these are some of the things that you also have to factor in when you're seeking a relationship. If you're not honest from the jump, then you're building essentially a relationship on a problematic foundation. And so I would say, think about what might impact you in the past and how it's impacting you now, and ensure that your circle of people your circle of people aligns with your values as well, and what you want to see in healthy relationships. And also be brutally honest with yourself and with people whom you interact, or who you plan to move or have a lifelong relationship with.
All right, Darren, thank you for that. I'm so sorry about that. Thank you so much for those gems. I'm going to go ahead and answer, well, view comments and the questions that you guys have, and have Darrian and or Nicole, since we're getting running out of time. So Darrian or Nicole, can you answer me, please? How do you love yourself? Or how do you learn to do so? Darrian, are you taking that one?
I was allowing I thought Nicole was going to respond. But if you want me to, I can. Do you want to go ahead, Nicole?
Can you hear me? All right. So, in terms of how do you love yourself? So, first of all, I want you to know that a lot of us, including myself, I have struggled with loving myself over the years. This is something that will take time, and the art is unlearning your misconceptions about yourself before. So, as an adult, we all have what we call inner childhood trauma. It's stuff that we went through as that kind of scar self-esteem or scar different parts of us, and we grow up as like a broken child within the adult body. So this manifests in different ways. In order to heal that, you first have to do your inner work. How I did mine, I have like a practice every morning. Apart from my daily prayers, I wake up almost every day, and I do what is called affirmations. So you'll find a lot of them on YouTube. Affirmations that focus on self-esteem or confidence. For example, I literally be in the mirror like, okay, I'm one of the most beautiful, amazing women in the world. Everything working out in my favor, and I do a lot of in which I release those up or come up those emotions that I've carried for a long time. Like, oh God, I don't feel good enough. I don't feel pretty enough. I don't feel like I'm this, and I don't feel like I'm that. I let it out, and then I rewrite it. So I have this concept which I'll perhaps write as a book one day of what if. So my what if theory is that for every time that I feel insecure, I don't feel as great as I'm supposed to feel, I imagine what if I was the best version of me. So what if I am the most confident, sexiest, most intelligent, beautiful version of myself? How would I be when I set my mindset like that and things fall into place? So you love yourself, you have to put in the work, people. It's gonna take work. You have to be patient with yourself. Know that it's gonna take a process. You won't just get like, oh my God, I love myself. You will have sometimes moments or what is called like a mind attack. In your mind is flooded with a lot of negative thoughts, and you feel like, oh my God, nobody loves me. I'm so unworthy. Oh my God, poor me. But if you look around you, there's so many persons who are going through one thing or the other. And if those great people you know and admire were to listen to those voices, they wouldn't reach anywhere. So you have to understand that God only made one version of you in the whole entire universe, that you have something to bring to the table, that you're special, that you're powerful, that you're amazing. And that even though your life might be crappy now according to you, it can get better. Understand and know that, hey, if nobody else loves you, God loves you, and that you're amazing.
Thank you, Nicole. Darrian, this is for you. What recommendation do you have for a young man that is afraid of commitment?
Okay, so what I would say is first, try to figure out. So we go back to what we were saying initially. Can you sit with yourself to figure out what it is that is the reason for your fear of commitment? Is it that something happened? And we're not, well, we're not trying to attach everything to a childhood trauma for sure, right? But sometimes that's where it begins. So think about, was there anything that happened in your childhood where there were commitment issues, probably within your immediate family structure? Or is it that you have experienced something in your later adult life or adolescent life where you tried to commit, and especially in the context of a relationship, an intimate relationship, but your partner did something which you know made you decide that, listen, commitment is just not for me. So after you've sat with yourself, there are things that you have to go through, and after you break those things down, then you have to realize that every individual, depending on where you would have met that commitment challenge or issue. One thing, if you met it during your adolescent life after trying to commit to someone, then you have to realize that you have to treat each relationship as an individual entity. So not everyone will bring the same kind of thing that you experienced if that's where it started from. If you experienced that during your childhood, then you have to talk yourself through by means of what Nicole mentioned, positive self affirmations. I am good, I am worthy, I can do this if I find the right individual with the right values. Because sometimes it boils to your childhood experiences or adolescent experiences or in your early adult life. And then after you've gone through those things, one of the things that you can also do is to set boundaries when you enter a relationship. So once you enter a relationship, set boundaries. Not because you are a man, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't have boundaries as well. So set boundaries, because you have women who, if they know that you are a particular kind of way, then they'll expect you to be kind and nice and everything without a real commitment. So they will take everything that they can, but their intention is not to commit. Their intention is not for a lifelong partnership. And so when you set your boundaries, if you have whoever you're dating, whoever you're courting, if you find that they want to move past those boundaries too quickly, right? Especially in a context of expecting things from you as a man, or saying that you need to give them this or that, then you have to now reassess, is this the person for me? Especially if this individual isn't really, contributing anything to the relationship other than the organ we mentioned earlier, then you really have to assess, what is it, that I want from this relationship? And so you might find that your commitment issue, you can pin it to something later. Okay, I didn't have boundaries before. And so because I think, or I thought that I'm the person who, once I'm going in a relationship, then I'm expected to be committed. I expected this from the other person. That wasn't reciprocated. And so, you find you need to set boundaries. Or if you can pin it to something in childhood, you need to work through that, possibly with a coach or a therapist, just to help you move past that stage.
All right, thank you, Darren. Guys, I know Darren, what's that where you are now? I think it's like early morning for you. I'm so sorry to keep them so long, but when you're dropping gems and people need questions, what can you do? I'm going to be asking before we get to the next comment, I'm going to be asking Darrian and Nicole. So, leave their contacts in terms of Instagram or any other social media platform. If you're interested in being coached by Darrian, I'm sure even though it gives a male perspective, coaches right across the genders, I should say. Nicole as well for her motivational speaking, and if you're graduating into life coaching, if you want to contact them on social media, I'm sure they will be more than willing to share their contact information. So if you could, before we get to the next question, if you could just share how can people contact you if they're interested in coaching. Okay, go. Just send hello to a few people. Anna K, Javis, Connie, and Michael. Yes, Melaine, Candy. Hello, everyone. Darrian is just about to share his contact with you.
Okay, so you can find me on Facebook as I don't remember what my name is on Facebook. I think that's my full name, right? So Darrian Bryan. That's my. You can find me on Facebook, and also on IG, Darrian Bryan. So it's a shortened version. So it's DARRI, and my last name. That's me on Instagram. So you can find me there. You can send me a message, and then for sure we can have conversations.
All right. Thanks, Darian. So in terms of where you guys can find me, ideally on Instagram. So it's Nicole Speaks 222. So that's Nicole Speaks 222. So three twos.
All right, thank you, Nicole. All right, I know I've said it over and over that we're getting there. We're almost there. We have about 2 questions left. And this question hold on. Okay, so Melaine says, as a woman coming out of a long-term relationship that I thought that would last forever, how do I get out of this slum of getting into unhealthy rebound situations? How can I get out of that? How can I move on from my mistake? Yes. Darrian, I would love to hear the male perspective on this one.
Okay, sure. All right. So what I'd say, Melaine, is men can, for want of a better word, smell vulnerability. And so you might not have many men who might be interested in your healing process because for them, it makes things a whole lot easier, when when you're leaving from one situation to a next. And I'm not trying to badmouth men, but we have a cultural problem. And so for some men, they like the idea that some men might like the idea of being able to use that as an excuse that, you weren't stable enough for me, but they're still sticking around for the benefits. And so they might always jump back to the idea, you weren't stable enough, I can't do this with you, work on yourself first after having received the benefits. So from my perspective, Melaine, I think if you can, I think it's necessary for you to just take some time for yourself and do what Nicole and Kadisha would have mentioned. Date yourself for a time, right? So date yourself for a time and figure out what it is that could possibly be leading you back to these rebound situations. Figure out what is that you want from relationships. Because the truth is sometimes we have voids that we're trying to fill. And that is a part of the reason why we keep on jumping and finding ourselves in the same situation that we're trying to run from. So date yourself, have some time with yourself, spend some time with yourself, because men will always be there. but you only have one self. And if that self keeps on getting or taking blows, then before long you find that you are at a point where you just can't be bothered. And then you settle for any old thing and you have a miserable life because you're just settling. So figure out what is that you want first, and then avoid for a time that kind of interaction. You know, place yourself in group settings where you can see different people, how they interact, stuff like that. You know, that time you get a chance to see how the possible perspectives, you know, how they might be, how they deal with conflicts, how would they deal with other people, that kind of thing. And so that's also giving you an opportunity to heal while and place yourselves among people as well who you think have healthy relationships. You can talk to people we think have healthy relationships, find out what it is that works for their relationship, and then you can pick from what you want and see how you can fit that into your own idea of what you're looking for.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Darrian, for answering that. Last question, guys. Last one is from Candice, and I'm going to ask Nicole to answer this one. How do you forgive yourself for making mistakes in your previous relationship so that you can move on? Yes, Nicole, your time to shine.
Okay. Hear me. Okay, it's off. Before I answer this one, I want a question. I was there, been there, done that, out of a long-term relationship, and trust me, it takes a toll on you. Baby girl, this is what you're gonna do. You are gonna take some time for yourself, as we've been suggesting, because trust me, these young men, they take pieces of your essence, parts of you that you'll never get back. So when you sit down and you work on yourself, you are going to come out 10 times bigger, better, better, if that is such a word. So definitely take heed to what Darian was saying. Take some time for yourself and regroup, because you can come out as the sexy goddess queen, which is you're so confident that you don't need to tolerate anybody's foolishness anymore, because they don't even deserve you, because you know who you are and what you stand for. That's for the previous question. Okay, answering this question now. How do you give yourself? No, this is something that I've struggled with only for a while, because when I look back at the caliber of person who I consider myself to be, and what I settled for, it really broke my heart looking at it like John Star. How did I ended up there? But tell you what, you're human and it's okay. Picture yourself hugging up yourself like, oh my God, I'm so sorry that I let you down. I love you. Look yourself in the mirror. If you need to bawl, and tell yourself that it's okay. You did the best that you could do, because you never know any better. We've all been there, and I think that the hardest part was actually accepting that I still am good enough now, after being damaged from all those persons who didn't appreciate who I am. But when I took the time to go through the process of working on me, like, no, not saying that I'm invincible, but I'm so grateful for where I am now, because I know who I am, and I know that, hey, like, even when it comes on to sex, for example, my sexual energy is sacred. So I'm not gonna share it if you don't deserve my energy. Like, that's the level that you should reach mentally, in which there's a scripture that says, don't give your pearls to swines, because basically they don't appreciate it. Baby girl, your essence, your energy, your time, that is your treasure. And you're not going to allow anybody to just come in because, oh, them see you as some softy. We're done with those days. That's who we were. This is who I choose to be now. And going forward, I choose that, okay, as Lisa Nichols said, give yourself 1,000 second chances and then press reset. You have to remember that there's nobody else like you in the entire world. And if you give on you, what do you expect the world to do? So even when you drop on your face, you better pick yourself up. I messed up. This is where I am right now. But I know that I know that I know that I can get to where I need to be. So don't worry, you'll be all right.
All right, thank you. I want to take this opportunity to say thank you so much, Darrian and Nicole. When I asked you to join this live, you never hesitated. And I know you have given us so many gems, from forgiving ourselves to ensure that we bring something to the table, ensure when we set our expectations, even if the person do not tick all boxes, we try to see if it can work. Because sometimes we are setting expectations and standards that we don't even need. And sometimes there are things that we leave off the list that is what we need and not what we want. Right. So thank you, Nicole. I'm definitely going to invite you guys back to come and speak. I know we had a few glitches today, but we made it work. And I'm so happy for those who tuned in and those who we're just here to ask questions, to genuinely share their experience. I'm so happy about that. Just to let you guys know, please do subscribe and like for my channel, and definitely contact Nicole and Darrian via social media platforms I stated earlier. Or talk next week. We're having 2 lives next week. You may see Nicole and Darrian again if they're available. The one is, should women submit to their husbands? And the next one is, do you know what we want? And we're talking about women. Do you know what we want? Bedroom etiquette. Is it bam bam, thank you, ma'am? And oh yes, me just mash works. Yeah, man. But you did not truly satisfy your woman. All of those things are things that we need to talk about. We're talking about the hard topics because we do not want our young men and our young women to go into relationships with the incorrect notions. So definitely tune in next week, and thank you everyone. Thank you, Darrian. Thank you, Nicole. Let me put up this bit. Oh, Education Maker Magazine. Thank you for joining. Thank you guys. So much value was left here with us. Michael Johnson, can you plug Darrian and Nicole's social media contacts within the chat or description? Definitely. So as this live is posted, I will definitely send it to you guys so you can contact them and do business. All right. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining. See you next week. Take care, Darrian. Take care, Nicole.
Bye bye. Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Bye, Nicole. Take care.
Bye, guys.